Hello everyone and welcome to Talk Together. Thank you for joining us for an evening of talking about Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Chris, I'll be your host for tonight, and today I'm chatting to Ollo Clark. Ollo, say hello for the lovely people.
Hi, lovely people. Really excited to be here.
Hey, hello. So we'll get into who you are and what you do, but I think it's important we mention, the product at the top of the show. I think that's valid, isn't it?
Sure, please.
Oh, you got a book. Oh, show it.
I got a book. It exists. It's real. I can hold it. It's
Tavern
real.
Tales, Volume 1.
All 300 pages of it. It exists. I'm still not bored of doing this. Yeah.
Well, of course not. It's your book. You should be very proud of it. That's the whole thing. Anyway, Tavern Tales, you hopefully saw the one-shot on Tuesday where Tom Yansis took us through not one of the adventures from Tavern Tales, we'll get to why later, but gave us a bit of a breakdown of the tavern in question, which is the sort of centerpiece of the entire book, but we'll come back to that in a sec. Because before we do, I'll let people know a bit about what we're doing here. So we're talking about D&D for an hour. We are delighted to be sponsored by Hero Forge, Ultra Pro, Phoenix Dice, Alchemy RPG, and supported by Idle Champions, D&D Beyond, Warriors of Waterdeep, Neverwinter, and Elderwood Academy. And of course, for today, and only today, Escape Plan Games with the lovely Tavern Tales book. There will be links in chat if you fancied the book. If everything here sounds good and you want to buy one, please do. I think it's that way. I think
it's that way.
Oh, who knows? I think if you're watching on a mobile, it's that way. I don't know. Yeah, good. We're all together RPG on all the socials, including TikTok now. I know. We're so young and vibrant, aren't we?
Youthful.
I know. Yeah, I exude youth. I've done this before. Bottle it. Anyway, massive thank you to the D20 Club, who are our lovely patrons. Thank you so much for letting us make content like this, and it is super appreciated. Also, all of our shows are available on YouTube or as podcasts, if that is what you would prefer. If you're listening to them or hearing them or watching them there, hello, Michael. Good. Right. Hello. Tavern Tales.
Hi. Yes.
Volume 1. I mean, that is an arrogant naming convention for your first book. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. We came out swinging on that one.
Yeah.
So that was a decision made right up top because we do want this to be a series. So the whole point of the Tavern Tales, as will be series, but starting with volume 1, is the drive behind the book was a frustration with some of the ways that Wizard products and other third-party products don't really make the DM's life easier. They are there are certain products that are kind of, look how good we are at world building, or, focusing on the narrative and stat blocks, which is great. But there are some books where you're constantly flipping between 200 pages from front to back, trying to find where's the thing that I want. It says this treasure chest is locked. What is in this? So the goal of Tavern Tales, for those of you who don't know, if you haven't watched the one shot, which I haven't watched yet either, but I will agree with you.
Pre-recorded,
yeah. But I'll tell you right now, audience, I agree. When that happened, what a development that was. So Tavern Tales is a book that is centered around one tavern. It is, I know, I'm excited too. It is one building with fleshed out staff members, or with backstories, and then there are 14 quest givers who are regulars at the tavern, and it is purposefully location agnostic. So the idea is you can drop it into your world anywhere and hope and run one session with it, 2 sessions with it, come back and forth to it. And it allows the DM to take a breather in their homebrew or in the adventure they're running and go, I don't have the mental RAM this week to come up with something. I can just open it and pretty much play out of the book. We've come up with a very specific iconography system that we are very proud of, and I have to shout out Colin Heffernan, one of the founders of Escape Plan, for really being the drive behind this, that we think is a real improvement and makes adventures a lot more navigable, both on maps and off maps. A lot of symbols to make things easier to read. And so coming back to the start of this, the idea is we want a series of these so that, if you have gone through this whole book, which we sincerely hope you do, because they're adventures from level 1 to level 13. So hopefully it can be there for you for a while. When your players get further down the road or get into a new area, you can drop down Tavern number 2 or Tavern number 3. And they serve as real time-saving hubs.
The hub,
for the DM.
yeah.
Yeah, hub is the word, really. Like, that's somewhere you can keep coming back to. It's useful again and again and again. It evolves, and your relationships evolve with your players and with these NPCs as you go back and forth. And
the ability to, because it's that's been, I reckon. Now, I'm going to put some COD theory on this now, if you'll allow me. This has been a thing that Wizards have been trying to do for ages, and you just went, here you go, this is how you do it. Because recent books, especially ones that aren't overproduced, tend to have I'm not digging on Spelljammer at all, tend to have a locked location. Radiant Citadel is a locked location. Candlekeep's obviously a locked location. These setups for which there are multiple stories and adventures happening off the same locale, off the central hub point, that create this sense of every week a new adventure, every week something different. Multiple writers can put their little tuppence halfpenny in and write their little story, and then the week after, if they found things in that were fun for the players, you can do more of them, and if they didn't, well, then they didn't, and that's okay, and here's an entirely different tangent to go on, which... Here's my COD philosophy. I reckon that sits closer to the average gaming table experience than an ongoing campaign with ongoing arcs.
Very possible. I think it, we all know that the biggest villain is time.
Yeah.
At the table, the thing that will really kill a party is time commitment.
Scheduling. Yeah.
And while there are these legendary 10, 12-year campaigns out there, which are unreal. The fact that some people have those is amazing. Yeah. But I think being able to sit down, maybe especially with new players or players who like D&D but don't worship at the altar of D&D, as some of us do.
Sure. We don't talk about
it. I've got my robes somewhere.
You live in LA. You can't talk about cults.
Tripping over them. They are everywhere. There's 3 downstairs right now. So you can dip in, and dipping in is not a bad thing. Dipping in is actually maybe the way you keep this going.
It's not just it's dipping. It is dipping. It's that attempt to go, I've got 4 friends over for an evening and we'll do a thing. That makes sense. Or we started doing a thing, everyone loved it, we'll do 2 or 3 more. It's where you go from there. And I love that, you've done it, and a couple of other recent books are doing it too. This idea of this adventure is for this level, this adventure is for this level. And the ability, therefore, to interconnect the dots, interconnect the adventure, start adding in some of that lovely DM homebrew flavor, making it for your players, not directly out of the handbook kind of stuff, which, for my money, Tavern Tales does significantly better than existing books because of the design function. This isn't 12 writers were paid to go off and write their own thing and then come back and stick them all into a book and go, there you go. This is actually a concepted, planned series of adventures that could form a long-form narrative if you want them to, or could be episodic little things that you do because it's easier that way, which is a coup, I would say.
That's really exciting to hear, because that was definitely the goal. The seesaw we were trying to balance was one-shots, individual runnable, fully formed adventures with a thread that ran through them that was not heavy-handed. I guess, this light touch. There are connections, and there are thin strings connecting some or all of these, but we wanted those to be so thin that they don't have to be there if you don't want them to. They can only enrich. They never hold back. And this is sort of my crucial point about making the DM's life easier.
Yeah, definitely.
Is you don't need to read 40 pages of lore and know the pantheon to run this. You can drop it in, and if your players seem hungry for more, you can use the little things we've put in there to enrich and connect and draw in. But you don't have to. Yeah. And that's the fine line we were really trying to walk.
And so many of those connections are some really well-rounded, well-designed, engaging NPCs. There's a whole... I mean, as a player who looks at books of adventures and then plays them and looks at the NPCs and goes, aha, I see, Rogue A. There's a certain amount of like, okay. There's occasionally a character where you go, that's a really cool concept, or that's a really cool idea, but the implementation is very, very skin deep. It has to be, because it's an adventure book and it's just, here's this character, off you go. These 4 traits should be enough to flesh them out fully. You're the DM, why would make your life easier? Whereas you've got so many... not just fully fleshed and fully rounded NPCs with an entire narrative around them that you don't necessarily explore as part of any of the adventures. Like, without giving too much away, one's a fucking time traveler, and it's just casual. It's just, oh, he's a time traveler. It's just there, and you go, okay, it's just a lot. And so that's great. I love all of that, because it means that you as a DM go, I'm inspired by that, but you've not done anything with it. You've just gone, here's all of the... It's like someone presenting to you a tray of food and going, you could eat these now, but these, if you cook them for 5 minutes, they're really good, and just walked away.
So this is a real benefit of the tavern, the one tavern model, is that we could do, so for people, we have, outside of the adventures themselves, we have 5 tavern staff and 4 what we've called local legends, who are tavern regulars, who were given to us as prompts from our highest tier Kickstarter backers. So they gave us prompts, and I wrote up the characters and the NPCs from their prompts. And exactly as you say, they are not core part of, in fact, they are not part of any of the adventures, but they're there. They're sort of almost sort of Easter eggs that we've given the DM and gone, you can just, or not, you can have these guys in your back pocket to be a conversation at the bar, if you so choose, as a hook for, if you do want to homebrew, this is the real space where go nuts with it. Well,
when Tom picked this up to DM, what we said to him was, I think if we run any of the adventures, we're going to do the book a disservice, because we're just going to showcase material that people will probably want to play themselves, and that's good. But you've got this whole pub, you've got all the people in the pub, you've got people who just sat around, and you've got people who work at the pub, which means you've got all the interaction points that you need. And then there's also this whole, I mean, it's not a spoiler because they saw it on Tuesday, this whole circus outside as well, which is also intimately connected to the pub itself in a really, I'm going to say it, extremely left field design choice. We've got a pub. It could be any pub in the world. No, this one is circus themed. All right. Is... Was that a hamper? Was that like, oh God, this, like, what are we going to do? It's circus themed. Or was it more of a, we want something like, do you want all of the different pubs in volumes 1 to presumably 50 that to have specific theming to give maybe the adventures, maybe the NPCs some direction? Is that the idea?
There will be a hook, certainly, for each one. And because I think what it makes a very strong offer with is a community that you're walking into.
Yes.
You know, the people that will be regulars at this tavern will be regulars for a reason, you know. And I think, like any good pub or, you know, your favorite bar, there's a reason you go back. You know, it's not just it's the cheapest pint around, because that's not enough to want you for you to want to be there for hours and hours a week, you know, or to chat to people at the bar. There's usually something else in the woodwork.
Why circus? It seems esoteric.
It does seem esoteric, and I'll let you in on something. I came onto the book not at the start.
Sure.
So the Mike and Colin, get in the comments, get on Twitter, let us know why it was a circus.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I find it interesting for 2 specific reasons. I mean, there's many reasons, but these are 2 of the ones that stick out to me. One is that it's so visually and stylistically vibrant. Like, it is conceptually a big concept, and it's one that you can grab hold of and as a DM go, this is a world that is different. It is specifically different from 9/10 of other hubs you'd find in a D&D setting. So is it the uniqueness? Is it the fact that it's special and unique to other D&D things. Like Circus Themed Pub isn't the first thing that sprang to my mind when you said, think of a D&D pub. You know?
Yeah.
But also Circus quite famously is, as a community, quite insular. It is a community that tends to be amongst itself and likes being amongst itself. It's a community that gets written about very, very poorly. And so going into something like that and going, well, D&D is not something that's had an issue with traveling people of any kind ever. Let's write about another group of traveling people which can have racial connotations. I'm sure it won't be an issue at all. And it's not. I'm no expert in the field, obviously, but nothing in there compared to how tone deaf other attempts have been, and we'll leave it at that. This didn't feel like that at all. It felt contemplative. It felt like this is something where there was understanding almost, which, I mean, I assume therefore a personal connection, but it doesn't have to be. The fact that that was such a sort of core part of the book I found really fascinating as a reader. I felt like I was being invited in somewhere. That's
really, really exciting, because I don't believe there is any personal connection, but certainly with the reading I did. So for context, I was given the prompts for the tavern NPCs, and I wrote them up myself.
Yeah.
And what I love about the circus theme, and particularly when I sort of started doing some reading about the community, like you say, and stuff, is that the reason I think it fits so deliciously into a D&D world is if there is an adventuring party in the real world we live in, it's a traveling circus group. In terms of just a gang of people who have, by definition, sort of left somewhere. Either they've grown up in it, which is a whole world unto itself, or they have left somewhere else to become part of this world that, you know, as with any touring art, is grubby behind the scenes and sparkly in front. You know, we all know anyone who's, you know, I've done touring shows myself, and you know.
Do you think it's a theatre thing? I wonondered if there was a thing, because you and I are both ex-theatre people, or current. I don't know. Are you a current theatre person? I think I put myself.
No, I'm pretty much ex by now.
Yeah, same. Shame, really, isn't it? Because it was lovely while it lasted.
Yeah. COVID kind of killed it, I think.
I think so.
But it's that
tragedy of that, really.
But it's found. So okay, so we can talk about this. It's found family.
Yes.
And it's artifice in all parts of your life that just bleed into you know, who you are and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
And there's drama, and there's travel, and there's often quite serious emergencies, you know, if something goes wrong or someone gets hurt. So you know, I'm not saying that as actors we know the D&D life. What I'm saying is it fits very a traveling group of D&D adventurers meeting a group of circus folk crackle to me. Like there's a natural affinity there. And in terms of writing NPCs, it meant I was able to, again, the people who have ingrained secrets and artifice and characters that are not who they are when they close the bedroom door at night, you know. And you talk about community. All of our people left the circus to go and build a brick and mortar tavern.
Yeah.
And that was a wonderful, you know, what does that mean? Like I start one of my sort of introductions to one of the characters with, the circus is the thing people run away to. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
So what does it mean if you leave that? You know, what does it mean, you know, a sense of what is home then? And, you know, as you say, the circus comes back because the family that Flip are kind of our lead Tavern. Instigator, for a trip away. Their family are still in it, and the relationship is cordial, but it's not, and very loving, but it's not. There's still friction there, you know. There's still a sense of pride. Yeah,
they left
the family. They left the family.
Yeah. Which is a fascinating concept in and of itself. You brought it up. I promised I would wait till you brought it up to myself, if to no one else. The book is surprising. Again, it's become more of a thing with D&D recently, and I'm really glad that it has, for obvious reasons. the book is very, very good at playing around with gender nonconformity, of having gender nonconforming characters, liberal use of they, them pronouns, which I obviously appreciate hugely. It's also this idea of artifice, because a lot of gender is performative. And this idea of the artifice of ex-circus performers who still sort of perform to their patrons, because they're kind of making their money out of this as well, let's be honest. And the fact that there is this question of artifice around their performance and their personality and who they are. It was great, A, to throw some gender politics into that, always approved, and then B, to not play to the obvious stereotype. There's no bearded lady.
Nope. No.
And I think there's one in the circus, but not one in the pub. Is that right? Something like that.
There's not a... I don't think there's
a tattooed lady. There's a tattooed lady.
Yeah.
You're right, there's a tattooed lady. But then taking the, frankly, awkward gender questions around that and going, we don't need those. We can make all of these gender points nicely and quietly and subtly. I mean, that's nice to have a subtle gender point, mate. I appreciate that. And I think I don't think this is a question. I think it's just me as someone gender nonconforming reading a book going, thank you, that's actually quite good. I'm glad someone took the time.
I mean, to say you're welcome feels flippant because it wasn't, because I'm not doing it. It wasn't a, it wasn't a favor. I think part of that, I will say, and the joy of that is it happened, for the, more than a third of the book that is adventures. That happened perfectly naturally. It is an anthology book. The adventures are written by writers, and I need to shout out some of our amazing writers from across the community.
You chose some amazing writers for this. I mean, so you chose is a strong word. Found there we go. Some amazing writers who
we were so lucky. Yes. Yeah, exactly. We have the wonderful, we've got Paige Ford, who is one of our other creative directors who's written for Uncaged and Beyond the Basics. We've got Mackenzie de Armas, who is now at Wizards. If you open some of your Wizards books, you'll see her name in the front page. We've got Any Winners. We've got Jessica Markram. We've got Lynn M. Meyer. We've got Kaylee Bray from Damsels Dice and Everything Nice, and so many others, that I...
Can I throw a thought to you? And this may be a thought that, some people won't like, and frankly, fuck them. You have a great number of writers in there who are either female or gender non-conforming, which is considerably rare for a D&D anthology book. And the fact that the ones we've mentioned, that what we have published, that are working more in this direction, are also ones where this is a trend.
It's funny that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a good trend.
Yeah. And this is sort of, this is the point I was building to. No, not at all. Just exactly your point is that I think a lot of the gender non-conforming and queer stories came from those are the sort of, those are the people we got on board.
Still a rarity.
And just or just nice people, It's not like genderqueer people have to write genderqueer stories or anything. It was just sort of, it was a lovely group. Like as someone who was one of the editors and had to pull all these things together, it was just a joy to read everyone's work.
You write what you know, and you perform what you know. It doesn't mean that genderqueer people have to write genderqueer characters, of course not, but I mean, whenever I do get a chance to play, and it's rare, I'm the DM most of the time, when I do get a chance to play on the channel, my characters are all genderqueer because I don't really know how to play someone who isn't genderqueer. I don't really know what that means anymore. And I think opening that door personally, D&D stream is not the place to do that. Like, I totally get why that happens. And I love that it happens because it means that people like me and many others who watch what we do and play with us and all the rest feel like they're being seen. So over and over again, it's just a small thing of going, oh, someone like me.
Yeah. And it's no surprise at all that, what do you mean? A world where I can play a shapeshifter or someone with horns and throw fireballs and everything's made up? What do you mean I can experiment with who I am and this is a safe place to do it? Weird,
Oh, no, you see, Ollo, you've fallen into an obvious trap there, and I have to be honest with you about this. The fact that, that you're not being historically accurate in this fantasy world is clearly extremely important.
You know what? You're right. I apologize. Sorry. I need to read more history books.
Look, we just need to be more historically accurate about our worlds with dragons and people.
About our tieflings.
Cutting people's heads in half with a sideways swipe of a sword with no effort required whatsoever.
Yeah. You know,
you're in LA. You
can, where you can fall out of a plane, hit the ground, and still have enough hit points to be fine at like level 5 or 6. Yeah,
well, you basically can if you're a monk. I mean,
listen, it's always It was just like that for turtles. Okay, it was just like that for them. And if you break that artifice, I mean, what are we doing?
All of the last 30 seconds, please, should be taken with a severe pinch of salt. Good. Right, Ollo, we've talked about Tavern Tales, and it's amazing. And there's links in chat to buy it, and you'd absolutely should. There's PDF versions. There's there's a PDF version. There's the print version, which is amazingly a full print version in this pandemic. But in that pandemic, it's officially stopped. It's no longer happening. Joe Biden said,
you say sort of miraculous. I mean, when did we start talking about working together? When did I send you the PDF? Yeah, because that was supposed to be about a month, 2 months before the hard copy came out, and then shipping happened.
But I don't understand how anyone can be annoyed about stuff like that anymore. Because
no.
Oh, we couldn't do it because people were dying. Yeah, don't. I mean, it almost seems obvious, but getting into politics. Anyway,
it happened. We got it there.
Yeah, and it's a full print book. So there's the full print book. There's a version with dice as well, I think.
Yes, so you can if you go to the website, which is www.eplangames.com, you can buy the book. You can buy just the book. You can buy just the PDF. You can buy some really beautiful dice that we've had made, or you can buy the full set. You can buy various combinations of all of those things. Well,
check all that out. Great book. And also, if you haven't seen Tuesday's one shot yet, go back and check it out. Tom does an amazing job. It's also, because of all the time things, a little bit of secret here, it's the first thing Tom DM'd for us.
Is that true?
His first show. Yeah, I know. Think about how long ago he's been DMing for us. This was the first thing he DM'd for us.
Oh my god, yeah, that dates it, doesn't it?
No, not in a bad way though.
No, absolutely.
I look younger in it. I'm not upset about this. But it was
everyone's skincare game has really picked up this week.
6 months to a year ago, I think. Somewhere around there we first did the recording, and it was so funny. We will keep it until you're ready, and here we are. So this is all good news. It's all great. Yeah. Anyway, this is a show about rolling dice somewhere, so we should probably do that. It's mostly asking questions about your D&D experiences, but Ollo, feel free. Let's find out more about Mr. Ollo Clark. It is Mr., I presume.
It is, yeah.
Okay, I've rolled a d20. That is a 19.
Strong start.
Now this is one that definitely is a question that leads to a longer conversation, so I want to hear about this.
Okay.
If you could go back and change an in-game decision, what would it be?
Oh, God.
You've been playing for years. You must have tons of these.
Yeah. Would you like one as a DM or a player?
I don't mind either way. I think as a player, it's going to be more personal. As a DM, it's probably more like awful because you're the DM and you had to do something awful.
Yeah, you know what? It's not actually. And I think I know exactly what I'll pick because it was a real lesson for me on, you tell yourself again and again and again, as a DM, you cannot force your story on players.
Oh no! What did you do?
Well, it wasn't that I.
I'm sorry. That door goes nowhere.
What the result was a moment that I really wanted for them didn't land because I was rushing it. Like that's all. And so this was my lesson it was the launch for the adventure that I'm running for my players at the moment. Which I won't go into too much detail on because suffice to say it's going to form an escape plan games offering in the future.
Exciting.
But so I had them meet their quest giver, who I wanted to be rather intimidating, and because it was the beginning of the. It's not a full flat on my face moment. There's no big story here necessarily, but the lesson I basically I ended up playing intimidating rather than being intimidating. Do you know what I mean? Yes. And it was just a real lesson in. He's a sort of, if anyone's seen The Usual Suspects, he's a kind of Kobayashi equivalent. He's a sort of mysterious middleman for some unseen shadowy figure, you know.
Sure.
So the character I wanted to give off was very casual, very sort of unfazed.
Yeah.
But because it was the character I'd probably spent the most time thinking about at that point, because I'd been building up to this first session, I had mentally without realizing I'd scripted some stuff in my head.
Yeah.
And when it came to the session, obviously those script moments didn't come up, but I was flustered and a bit pushed. And so I I pushed moments and I think it means I didn't give my players the delicious launch that I really wanted to.
They didn't get the impact that you wanted.
No. So
That's
I think
tough.
if I was going to go back and change a moment, I would go back and introduce him much later in the first session. So I would because they had also met the world 12 minutes beforehand, or sort of 20 minutes beforehand.
Sure.
They hadn't really met their characters yet.
Yeah.
And it's actually made me think that in the next in the campaigns I run from here on, I'm not going to introduce the plot hook until session 2. I think I'm going to give my players an entire session of a bar fight or mucking around in their first town so that they can find themselves as well. Because part of it was they weren't sure where they fitted into their characters yet.
Of course, yeah.
So they weren't making fully committed character decisions because they were still trying voices or, Yeah. So I think the lesson I've learned from it is I'm going to give my players a full session before story turns up.
Do you want a little? I'll tell you something. So it's a little secret. I mean, it's a secret for the people who are watching as well, which is really good. We just started a new show that I'm DMing called Drowning in Blackwater because it's Halloween and also this is just what I do. I said to myself when I was writing it, I know what concepts I want to hit on, I know how I want to dive into this, but these are players. Most of these characters have been in other shows before, so they've got history.
Oh, cool.
They've got history with each other and with themselves.
That's great.
Which means they all know who they're playing, and most people who are watching will know something about them, and there's a whole wiki about them, which is good. But they never play together, or the ones that will have rhythms. So I tried something which I've never done before, where I started by saying roll initiative. And I went, oh, what? Yeah, roll initiative straight away. And then I let them place themselves in a combat environment by describing their first turn, or by describing as a reaction to someone else needing them to be in a place for something to happen.
That's very cool.
I'd never done it before. I was on the seat of my pants. I was freaking out going, is this going to work? 'Cause it might all just fall apart.
So are they not on the board, as it were, until their turn starts?
Effectively, they're not on the board until their turn starts or until another player says, can I put you there so that my turn makes sense?
Yeah, amazing. I really like that.
It was a moment of, I'm going to put out there, sheer lunacy to do it while recording a show. But I thought, why not?
You can over-prepare for these things, Chris.
Yeah, you can. But I thought, why not?
Very sort of Sin City, in a way, like very kind of arriving, very in media res.
Exactly.
I heard someone say a while back, I can't remember who the quotes ascribed to, but I can't remember who it was. Is it Kurt Vonnegut? Someone said, start your story as close to the end as possible.
That sounds like Kurt Vonnegut, but I have no idea if it is.
Which I really like. It's just like, throw them in and get a strong prompt, something to wrap, something to bend your character around and go.
It's got a Hemingwayness to it, doesn't it? That kind of, what do you start with? The facts. There's nothing else. I didn't think this would be a great way to introduce all the characters. I just thought of it more as if I start throwing plot at them now, there's so much to throw at them that it just feels like I'm going to be heavy-handing the first episode. I don't need to. Yeah. I've got time. It's 6 episodes long, and I've got thoughts and plans that I think will probably extend to 4 or 5. So I've got time. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. I like that.
Well, I mean, it was your idea. I just happened to do it recently.
But yours is starting with mechanics, which is a very concrete thing for someone to lean on.
Yeah.
What does my firebolt look like? That's a much easier, simpler line. Yeah, that's great.
It's also the thing with D&D, and it's an interesting dichotomy with D&D, is that we're all sat in a room acting and role-playing with each other, right? No, it's a game with rules, and you roll dice and things happen, and that interactivity can be really tough to align, because players will go, but I wanted my character to do this because the role-play was good in that, and you go, yeah, but there's a dice roll and this is a game.
Yeah.
The fact that you start with game mechanics then as well means you're thinking mechanically, what is my character like? And then as you start to roleplay them, that all starts to gel back in. There's less of the, I wish I'd rolled a so-and-so.
Yeah, exactly. I like that a lot.
Luck. I tried it and went, this worked surprisingly well. I don't think I can now do it again. I think it's too obviously a thing if I do it on every live show that we do. But, the idea...
Stealing that.
Well, please do. No, this is... All these things should be shared, right?
Yeah.
Which asshole DM is sitting around going, I have all the secrets and they're mine? Like, no, if the more people who know, the better.
Have you been on Twitter at all, ever?
You know, don't spend a huge amount of time on social media, and this is why. We can roll on the dice. We should roll on the dice.
Yeah,
Good answer. Love that answer. Also, DM humility. I respect that hugely. The ability to go, that didn't go the way I wanted. What can I learn?
Gotta be. Yeah, learning. Like, I want to make this better for everyone, you know, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. 12.
Still up to 10. I like this.
It's the roll together dice. It is genuinely one of our branded ones, which we should have on sale relatively soon.
Oh, amazing.
I can't with the focus for announcement.
Yeah.
Buy
merch. Buy merch.
Buy merch. Always buy merch. Links in chat. Why are TTRPGs important? Now, it says important to you specifically, but I like to expand that out a little bit.
So, when I was at drama school, we had a drama school. We had a teacher who made the bleak but perfectly honest at the time point that the problem with one of the things that can get so depressing about being an actor is it's one of the few arts where if you're a dancer and you need to and that's your passion and you need to blow off some steam, you can go out and go dancing, or you can take a dance class. if you're a musician, you can go home and play the piano. You know, if you're a painter, you can go home. You cannot. Or rather, you really shouldn't. Just either come home alone, or even worse, go out in public and just do some acting to blow off steam. Which means that's. People will ask you to leave the coffee shop.
I've never heard that before, and I absolutely fucking love this.
It means that if that's your creative outlet, it can get very pent up because you're waiting for other people to employ you to do what you love doing.
Yes.
Which means, cut to 5 years later when I discovered D&D, I was like, wait, Jimmy, you were wrong. You can go home and blow off some steam. It was just this wonderful, just like, oh my God, I finally got something to do with all of this energy. But on top of that, even if you're not an actor, I think it's an incredibly empathetic thing. I think D&D built the sort of, you build real human connection and real empathy because you're building something together. You can't win it. There's no winners. You're just doing something together as a group.
There are winners. The players win. They always win.
But they always win.
Absolutely. They always win. And that's the point. Yeah. And if they don't win, there's got to be a really good reason why they don't. And then they win next time, which is why Infinity War and Endgame happened in the way that it did.
Better to say it's not a game you can lose. Maybe that's a better way to say it.
Yes, it's not a game you can lose. But no. I have a meaning behind that. It is a game you can win. One of my favorite things about D&D, bar none, is the heroic feeling that you get out of doing something that you will never do.
Yes, of course.
Is the ability as a player to go, I defeated the dragon. Now, that dragon could be in your mind and could be your depression, or it could just be, I've imagined this and I've lived it, and me and my friends together stayed up till 2 a.m. killing the dragon, and it was great. It's a thing that video games...
The dopamine is real.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a thing that video games does very quickly and very well, but it's a thing that D&D, I have found in the past, builds up to in such a way that it's almost like you're an actor as well, yes. Mm-hmm. Post-show, that feeling post-show where you've done a good job and you know you've done a good job, the audience clapped and you got a nice bow and everyone was happy and everyone's congratulating each other. That feeling of, we need to have a drink in the pub, because if we don't, I'm going to collapse like a wet balloon, because all of this enthusiasm and energy has to go somewhere.
I can't just get on the train home now.
No.
Yeah, I can't just, yeah, exactly. And it's something that is, I think, very difficult by playing digitally, which I think a lot of us are doing probably more of at the moment. But the cool down, of afterwards, I really try, if I've ever got a session, I'd really try and in person, I'd really, really, really try and make sure there's an inbuilt half hour, 45 minutes afterwards. So people don't have to go, that was great, bye, I got to get in the car. Everyone can just go, and have a drink and chat and just sort of, and sort of wind down.
I mean, because it's a show, it's slightly different, but we do stars and wishes after every recording. And that is partially because everyone needs notes, and notes are good, and it's a nice way of... Do you know what stars and wishes are? Sorry.
Those are sort of the positive lines and veils in some ways, isn't it? It's kind of what I would like going forward. Yes,
exactly. So we do a lot of... we do session zeros, and a lot of safety work goes into putting shows on the internet. I think it's only fair that everyone is treated safely and can play without feeling like and watch without feeling like they're going to have like massive triggers thrown at them. And one of the big things that works is having beforehand to know what's bad, having during to make sure everyone is safe, and having after to go, here are the things that I loved about today. That player did an amazing job, or that the DM did this amazing thing here, and here's what I'd love to have more of. And it's less of a, you didn't do the thing I wanted. What it tends to turn into is more of a, I wish you could play more sessions.
Yeah.
You know?
I wish more.
I really love to see more of that NPC, but I recognize that they're going to completely dominate if they're here all the time. Like that sort of conversation comes up quite a lot. And I think unwittingly we built in a cooldown, because it's great, because you get through like 10 minutes of everyone going, that was great, oh lovely, everyone's having a lovely time, oh this is really good, and just starting to peter out slightly. Yeah, exactly. And the buzz starts to build down. I recommend it. And also it's such a good confidence booster for people who are like, I don't know if my character really landed today, and you can go, no, it's amazing. The fact that you did that thing meant that I could do that thing. A lot of that sort of conversation as well. I really recommend it to anyone who plays, even home. Just at home, little stars and wishes before you go. Just a little, how did everyone like that? Yeah. It also means that, again, always learning. And always learning is really important.
And a big thing, which I do, that's great, and I haven't heard the terms before, but I do really recommend checking with your player session. It doesn't have to just be a session 0 and then you're off. Every sort of 4 or 5 sessions, I do a big group text and go like, right, DM feedback time. You know, what do you like? You know, what are we liking? What are we not liking? Are the combats too easy? Are they too hard? You know, is there anything, you know, and individually, is there anything from your backstory or, you know, recent story at the table story that you'd like to see more of? Is there anything you want some context on? So like communication, constant communication with your players.
Do you know what works really well conceptually with that? Anonymity. I know it sounds weird because there are 5 people. Of course, you know who the 5 of them are. And if they give notes, you'll probably know who it is. But the ability to write, you can write this and I won't know who it's from, means people are more honest.
That's interesting,
and not more honest as in more negative. You'd think it's more negative, but it's not. It's just, they say things that they would normally go, I'm not sure if it's the right thing to say. And it's still carried with, I'm not sure it's the right thing to say. People are people. They don't change.
Yeah.
It's more of a knowing they won't get personal repercussion for it. Which
just like just a Google Doc that's open to everyone, kind of
exactly thing. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of anonymized forms for safety conversation because they need to be anonymized as well for obvious reasons. So there's a lot of that we already do, but I've again found it works in home games. It's a really easy way of just making sure everyone is comfortable and happy and able to say if they're not in a forum where they're not going to feel like they'll ever get penalized or put down because of it, or you know, say if they're worried about another player. Which is really, really hard to do.
Yeah, and can mean that there's most scenarios, luckily, obviously don't fall into real car crash, not feeling safe at the table, you know. But small experiences can just dull your enjoyment of the game, and it means that you just mentally just drift away from it a little bit. You don't leave the table, you don't leave the game, but you just might not be
on your phone more often.
You might just not be as sort of as electric as it could be for you, and that's a real shame. And could be fixed with just a quick conversation.
Also, from experience, most of these issues tend to be these 5 small things have added up.
Yeah.
If you tackle them one at a time as they come up, they're less likely to be a big issue, and that's really hard to do when you're being polite.
It's like real life, Chris.
It is, but also, like, you've worked in office jobs, I've worked in office jobs, they were terrible, I hated them, but also, if there's a small infraction, you don't go to your boss and say there's been a small infraction, because it's a fuss, and you don't want to make a fuss, and it doesn't help anybody making a fuss, it just means there are more fusses, and then you realise that it's 4 years later, and you're making a sexual harassment claim, and suddenly something's gone very wrong somewhere. Like, you know, like, but that's how this builds up.
I shouldn't be laughing at that, but yeah.
No, but I think it is funny. I do think it is funny. It's not ha-ha funny, it's peculiar.
Yeah.
This world is a peculiar place. It's curious, especially to British people. Well, one British person and one very British-sounding person. Not actually British. Right. Do we roll the dice for one more question? I think we do one more.
Go for it.
Great. And I'm enjoying the conversation a lot, as always.
Me too.
Yay.
It's a joy.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you. I've rolled under a 10, I'm sorry.
I'm out.
9, under average. Oh, it's a nice one to end on. What would you say to a new player?
Welcome. I cannot express how excited I am for you. Your life is about to get so much more open and exciting. If you've come here from computer games, oh boy, it's going to ruin computer games for you. If just seriously, like, have you ever wondered why your player can't climb that chain link fence? That's a very good question, and here you can. There's no out of bounds. What I say to a new player, beyond that, enjoy yourself. I think, but you can't. I guarantee, unless your DM is brand new, you will not throw them off balance like you think you might.
Yes, good.
I think a lot of new players. There's two things about new players that I think is really interesting, which is a good and a bad thing for them. The good thing about them is they don't know the rules. The bad thing is they don't know the rules. So they sometimes go, I don't know how to do this, so I won't try. But they will also go like, and in a way that people who've been playing the system for years, they'll go like, okay, well, I want to pick up a chair and hit him with it. Can I do that? Whereas an experienced player will go, well, improvised weapon, I'm not proficient. Like the best thing to do here is, is give him bardic inspiration and then do this. But a new player at the table can sometimes, by not knowing what is going on, really inject some fun and chaos back into the table in a way that experienced players really enjoy. So
I would take that advice further. I would say to experienced players, do the thing that isn't statistically most valuable.
Yeah.
Because often it doesn't really matter that much. I don't mean to denigrate any player's turn, but let's take a bard. D8 to let someone else do something slightly better and probably a spell. What if you instead went to pick up the chair and throw it at the person? What if? What's the worst that can happen? I mean, I don't know a DM who's cruel enough to say that's your entire action and bonus actions, so that seems unlikely. So you can still do the thing you want to do, which is inspire people.
And DMs reward that. Because
absolutely. Every time.
If as a DM you go, okay, improvised weapon attack, roll a d4. Like, your players are going to shrink.
Yeah,
if you go, awesome, they're stunned for this turn, everyone at the table goes, okay, we can play in this world,
There's a really difficult DM line there, isn't there, between being punitive if they're trying to do things all the time, but also being open to the idea that the rules are not written in stone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's no but as well as yes and sometimes.
Very important part of improvisation. No but is just as good as yes and, because it means you're still continuing. The arc still continues, but you're also, not everything you say is going to cause something valuable to happen. Yeah. Has D&D ruined computer games for you? Be honest now.
I think that some, I will say, I don't. Am I playing any video game RPGs at the moment?
Interesting.
Not really. Not that they've ruined it, but I think the limitations feel more limity. You
notice them more.
Yeah, I think you sort of, and you see where things, you talk about railroading as a concept. You talk about where bits of game design. You see the edges of world building, and you start to see the walls. I guess is sort of the way I would see it. Of like, we cannot have your player know how to climb, because otherwise you won't go through this corridor of scary enemies that we've spent a very long time programming. Yes. Whereas the joy of D&D, and I'll say this to new players, is a DM knows that their world is. There is a cartoon from, I think, The Guardian years ago that actually really informed my DMing, and I'll try and sum it up really quickly.
Wow.
It was when one of them
sentence. Wait. Just acknowledge that is a sentence. I read it. I saw a cartoon in The Guardian that informed my DMing.
Yeah. And I'll back it up. Here we go.
That is a sentence. I love it.
So it was when one of the Mars rovers had landed, and the cartoon was the Mars rover with its camera trained on a Martian city, flying cars, tall skyscrapers, all the thing. Except except that between the rover and the city, there were 2 aliens holding a piece of cardboard with blank desert drawn on it.
Amazing.
Discarding it. So, the way that informed my DMing is that in reverse. You are holding up a cardboard cutout of a world, and around you is just void. There is nothing. What the players remember from your sessions doesn't actually exist anymore. You can take those pieces apart. They can go back. The city can have burned down. NPCs can be alive, dead. Doesn't matter. So to a new player, I will say that your DM has so much sort of matrix space to pull toys from. If you need them, you cannot throw them off.
When you play with the DM, like you must have DMs of your own who you've played with, and when you see them make that click, that literally anything.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Just when their first fuck it, just take the book and throw it over their shoulder. All right.
Yeah.
When you see a DM do that, it's a wonderful moment. It's really nice. Yeah. When the DM stops being structured by nothing. Which they don't know why they were in the first place, but they were. Yeah, it is good. Now, do I tell you my favourite cartoon that informed all of my DMing, or do we cut to a close with yours?
Everyone has one.
Yeah,
everyone has a cartoon that informed their DMing. That's how this works.
Dragon Magazine, I want to say it was 3.5, so we're talking ages ago, 20 years ago at least. I can't remember what the series was called. It doesn't matter. All of the frames are exactly the same, except for the expression on the DM's face and the speech bubbles. It's a DM saying to a group of players, you come to the end of the corridor, and there are 2 doors, one on your left, one on your right. The one on your left, behind which is nothing in a speech bubble over his head, so just thinking it, and the one on your right, behind which is the poison marmoset trap. Which way do you go? The players do all the player debates. Can I roll perception checks, investigation checks? Is one of the doors trapped? What can I hear? They do all the things that players do, while the DM's just sat there getting more and more fizzing with anticipation of, I can't wait to open the door on the right. It's going to be the best thing. And this is the best trap ever made. It's a marmoset, but it's got poison on its claws. It's going to be incredible. I can't wait. It's going to be so good. They say, and then at the end of all of that, we go to the door on the left. When the DM blinks twice, 2 panels, final panel, you run into the dreaded poison marmoset trap.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Player.
It's flat. He's given up. They didn't fulfill his artifice, so it's done. Yeah. Not, I'm excited and I'll put it wherever the fuck I please. That has informed everything, and it's so weird that it has. I don't know why it has.
Yeah. It's a real position of trust behind the screen. It's a fine balance, but it's as long as the thing you're dedicated to is the best story for my players that I can give them, that I can feed them. It's great.
This is why it's also the second that we had it before today. They always win. Mm-hmm. Not that in face of everything they always win, but I want everyone to walk away from the table with a feeling of success, and it doesn't have to be a big success, but we have together slain the dragon is kind of why this game was invented, so it works. And whenever people do like the team building exercise versions of D&D, it's always as a team you can conquer anything. Highlighting teamwork and promoting if you work together, great things will happen. It's one of the best things about it.
Absolutely. And that goes back to the empathy point I was sort of trying to make earlier of just, you're sitting around as a group solving a problem. What can be better?
Sounds like a management course now. You've ruined it. On that note, no, it's harsh. Tavern Tales, links are in chat. Please check it out. It is, Tavern Tales Volume 1. How rude of me. A trip away. The trip away tavern? A trip away.
A trip away in, yeah.
A trip away in, thank you. Yes, watch Tuesday's show if you haven't already and find out more about the trip away in, which is gorgeous and lovely and special and weird and wacky and wonderful, all the things you'd expect. We didn't even mention the subclasses. I played one of them. There are
subclasses. One is an owlbear tamer.
I played that.
Owlbear. I cannot wait. I really cannot wait to see this.
So much fun. I love it. I had to voice it. Anyway,
amazing.
But yes, check all that out and ask your DM to play an owlbear ranger because, oh my God, you get a baby owlbear and it goes, ooh. I'm going to stop talking about it. It's amazing. Check it out. Yes, links are all in chat, so check out all of that stuff. And of course, thank you, Ollo, so much for being here and for doing that. Is there? We asked this at the end. Is there anything else you want to plug? And that sounds like a weird thing that you're talking about a specific book. But is there anything else that you're working on, or anything else you'd like people to see that maybe isn't even D&D?
Everything is D&D.
I know, but
that's all I have. Chris.
What's adjacent? What's an adjacent thing that you're doing?
Joking aside, I really can't think of anything that I'm working on right now that is adjacent. I'll be playing a one-shot on Twitch with the brilliant Time Lord's wife on Sunday.
Lovely.
You know Kayla?
I do know Kayla.
You do know Kayla? Of course you know Kayla. Yes, of course you know Kayla. So yes, we will be playing an Oops All Monks one shot.
Hey.
I am terrified to see what she's going to throw at us. That will be happening at I think 2:30 Pacific time on Twitch.
So that's hang on, like 10.
That's 10:30 UK time, I believe.
Oh, lovely! Late night show. Who doesn't like a
late night show?
Lovely.
So come check it out. See if we can punch whatever she puts in front of us to punch.
It's a lot of punching with monks.
A lot of punching. It's basically going to be successful punching or TPK. These are the two choices. Every game.
All right, well, check out chat where there will be a link to that as well. Thank you so much, Ollo. It sounds like a fantastic game. I'll definitely be watching that. Thank you for joining us. So we stream Talk Together on the Friday evenings. So join us for more of those, or Talking as a Free Action, where one of our strange, mysterious question lords takes one of our players through a dungeon that's really... This is a big concept show. Talking as a Free Action has somehow become this really big concept show when it was just meant to be like Crystal Maze. I don't know what's happened. There's a wealth of backstory about how all four of the people know it. It's fun. Check it out. Talking as a Free Action. It's on Fridays, or Talk Together if we're chatting to people like lovely Ollo. That's 6 till 7 BST GMT. Are we near GMT now? Close, aren't we?
Oh, God.
Anyway, at the time, 6 p.m. of the time, of the British of the time.
There will be British hours. Use them.
We do swap back for the crossover week into American time because of our American audience. Want to make sure that they can see things. So, yes, that's Fridays, and then on Mondays and Tuesdays we have our D&D shows. Mondays is currently Drowning in Blackwater, which isn't as horrific as it sounds. It's pretty horrific.
That's pretty horrific. Can't wait.
It's good fun. I'm having a great time. Says the DM.
Says the DM. Yes.
And
I'm
Tuesdays,
really enjoying myself.
Next week, it's another one shot. Next week we have Sleepers of Silveridge 2. Nat is finishing off Sleepers of Silveridge with the first one shot. It's level 18. They are level 18 characters.
Ooh.
Fighting an Elder Brain Dragon, no less.
Oh God, this is right. Yeah, we could talk about this forever, but that's
the tadpole breath. Yes, grim.
I've read this thing. I've never felt chills from a stat block before.
One of the players had to cast Wish to make sure they didn't die last session.
Oh,
I know. Anyway, that's on Tuesday.
Anyway.
Watch that. Don't forget you can always enjoy them as on YouTube or as a podcast if you would prefer, or you can watch them live at twitch.tv/rolltogetherrpg. Many thanks to the D20 Club on Patreon, all of our sponsors and supporters, and I'm contractually obliged to say, stay classy at the table.